So a few weeks ago, I got the utilities trench done and pretty much run the electricity and the water from my house here all the way to the cabin. As far as the water goes, I installed a 1-inch black pipe, in that trench, which then got backfilled. But so for now, I have it sticking out both at the cabin, in the wall, and then also at my house. So in this video, I'm gonna attempt to connect all this together to my house plumbing and finally get water into this cabin. So the first step is going to take place in my house. You can see here that's my plumbing in my house, and that's where it stops, and that's where I have to extend it all the way through my joist, all the way to this side wall where the pipe is currently sticking out from. So the first step is to drill several holes through my joist. I'm drilling them dead center, and I think the size is about 1 and 1/8. And I have to do them pretty much all in line so that I will be able to run my pipe. So to give you an idea, that's what the water intake looks like in my house. I'm on a well, so this light blue tank is the pressure tank. Then after that, you can see, I have actually pretty bad quality water, so that's why I have all those filters. But anyway, just wanted to shut the water off so that we may disconnect it and start extending the pipe.
Looks fine.
So I'm obviously not a plumber here, but again, I've done, I guess enough plumbing with this cabin to feel a little bit comfortable now with messing with specs. It's fairly simple to use in my opinion. The only challenge with this 1-inch pipe is that it's actually quite difficult to get it through the joist. So you might have to try and like bend it a little bit. But then the idea was to just add, as you saw, I added a T so that I could extend that 1-inch pipe and then reconnected, that water line with just 1/2 inch. And now I'm just adding a valve, and so that will be my main shuttle valve, feeding into the cabin. And then I was able to also just go ahead and extend that pipe. So we're back in the cabin now, and what I wanted to do is do the transition between the black pipe and PEX. And so you actually can get special plumbing for that. This is what I'm showing you right here. That's the transition from a 1-inch poly black pipe to a 1-inch PEX. The best way is to really heat it up so that you can, slide it in fairly easily, and then using a couple of clamps to really clamp the connection together. After that, you can transition into PEX, and what you're seeing me do is that I'm going to transition from a 1-inch PEX to 3/4 of an inch PEX to even 1/2 inch PEX is because I want to be able to install my valve, because I want to do a quick pressure test on this black pipeline which is buried into my yard. There's no reason why there would be any leak, but you know what? I would rather test it and be sure before I start running water. Before I can run a pressure test, the line that's currently sticking out of my wall in my basement in my house, I have to plug it. So I got this little plug here, and that's going to allow me to completely seal that end shut, and then I'll be able to pressure, the system from the cabin and see how that works. So just like I did when I pressure test the bathroom, I was just using my bike pump, but I quickly realized that I was getting nowhere. Obviously, this time we're talking about 150 feet worth of pipe, so it was gonna take a minute if it was even gonna work. So I quickly realized that I was going absolutely nowhere, so I just got my compressor, and thankfully I had an attachment that I use sometimes to fill up my tires, and would try to see if that would work.
Oh, so much better.
So then I got the line to about 80 psi, but needed to wait probably a few hours to see if it was holding. So for that reason, I jumped on to another task, which is that I need to install the water heater in this cabin. So what you're looking at is the drain line, which I already had installed, which is pretty much sticking outside, and that's just for the pan that will go under the water heater. It was just difficult because I don't know if you can tell, but everything is so tight up there. I'm right above the bathroom, and I really don't have a lot of room to work with. And so, everything is really fitting, to like 1/8 of an inch. So the first step was to install the pan. The pan is just so that if the water heater were to like have any leak or anything like that, the water would go through that drain and wouldn't just fall down onto my ceiling. After that, I had the genius idea of trying and install the water heater by myself. I mean, this is like a 28-gallon water heater, probably weighs about 80 pounds, and here I was trying to get it up a ladder, just being a little stupid, but at least smart enough to know that this was going nowhere.
I don't think that's gonna work. Nope. Nope, nope, nope.
So as always, I had a backup plan, which was my father-in-law was going to help me. So we just installed a little hook up there so that at least he would be able to pull on the rope and alleviate some of the weight while I try and make my way up there. It was still super sketchy. I mean, don't get me wrong, but at least I wasn't really feeling the full 80 pounds on me and potentially falling.
Ow, my
But look, I mean, you can see, I mean, look how tight that space is up there. And that's something that I totally overlooked is I did not realize how big that water heater was going to be. At first, I really thought that a 10-gallon was going to be sufficient, but after some research, I quickly realized that 28 is what I needed, and it barely fits in there. So the first step of the installation is to extend that safety valve. That's just, the safety valve of the water heater. If it gets overpressured, it would just release some of the pressure and water. And so obviously you have to kind of direct the flow downward so that it would go into the pane. For whatever reason, if you go straight down, you're going to hit another valve, which is the valve to empty the water heater. So for whatever reason, I have to kind of play with some 45 so that it would just go and get past that, that valve at the bottom. And just on another note, you're supposed to use CPVC. I don't know, that's what the manufacturer said in their installation manual. Moving on to some electrical. I mean, I know this is a plumbing episode, but man, I still gotta wire that water heater into place. So the first step is to install this, which is called a disconnect box. This is where just the connection between the water heater and the electrical line is going to take place. You can buy one of those kits, which is going to come with everything you need to make the connection. It's going to come with a flexible conduit so that you will be able to run your wire between the water heater and the disconnect box. So, and you can assemble those little, 90 degrees angles. They will just screw directly into the plate that's on top of the water heater. Then you'll just run a little piece of wire. I'm using a 10-2 wire because if I recall correctly, this is on a 25 M double pole breaker. So then it's just a matter of doing the connection. You only need 3 wires because you have 2 hot. So, I mean, a black and a red, and then they'll just be the ground as green. So you only have 3 wires to connect at the water heater. So here's kind of a close-up of what it looks like directly onto the water heater, and then you can close that up. They'll have plates that allow you to close everything up and make it 100% safe where no wire is exposed. Back at the disconnect box, well, I'll give you a tip here. It's a lot easier to remove the knockout before you install the disconnect box.
Oh la la!
You then have to just run a wire into the disconnect box, and with what came in the kit, you will have exactly the piece of connection to run between the conduit and the disconnect box. Then it's just a matter of exposing all the wires, and again you'll have a black and a white and a ground on each side. And then it's pretty good to look at the actual manual from the disconnect box because they will show you what are the line and the load, and you have to pay attention to where things get connected. Well, I started with the ground. That's easy. They get connected to their own little buzz bar. But then the white and the black get connected to like a specific spot depending on if it's coming from the electrical panel or if it's coming from the water heater. So these 2 are the line, they're coming from the electrical panel directly, and then the 2 others are the load, and that means they're going directly to the water heater. Because as you can see, all the disconnect do is actually connect the 2 white together and the 2 black together. So once, based on the position it's in, if it's on or off, either it's connecting all together or either it's just simply not. But that's all what a disconnect box does. Okay, let's go back to some plumbing. So it's been a few hours and I'm still at 80 psi. So this is great. That means I haven't lost any pressure. So I'm just able to just cut it off, release all the air in that line, and now I need to continue the plumbing in the cabin. And so I added a little few nails here in the way. So definitely want to get rid of that because I wouldn't want the water line to eventually get punctured by, nails sticking out. So I'm gonna be plumbing everything in 3/4 of an inch because that's just the size that I already have in the space above the bathroom. So it's as simple as just running the line through the wall, connecting everything together. Again, I'm using clamp and the PEX pipes. It works really well. It's kind of a little Lego set. Obviously, keep in mind that anywhere you're adding pipes, you have to protect them, and also if you're going through a plate, you have to put the right kind of expansion foam. That's just to meet all the requirement from the inspector. Main water line, and so that's still my cold water and my hot water, which were connected together for the pressure test. But we can obviously get rid of that now. So let's try and finish the plumbing in this cabin, shall we? So I'm adding another valve here. That would be kind of the main shut-off valve, actually, because that's where I'll have access to the water is, up that bathroom. And now I'm trying to slowly make my way towards the water heater. But first, I'm gonna go back and connect myself to the actual rest of the plumbing of the cabin, because you see that blue line right there is actually what's feeding all of the bathroom and the kitchen below me. So now this will be connected together, and I use the T, so that's going to be able to go feed into the water heater. But first I have to install what's called an expansion tank, which is there to kind of protect your plumbing. As the water will heat up in the water heater, it's going to expand, and so it's going to take more volume. So to not overstress the rest of your plumbing, this little expansion tank just allows water to, as the name say, expand into that space, and so it just gives it somewhere to go if it was to be a problem. So that's typically, I believe that's required by code, and you install it on the inlet. So you install it on the cold water line side of the water heater. If you paid attention, you're probably wondering on any threaded connection, including on the expansion tank, but also here on the water heater, I do use both plumber's tape and joint compound. And that's just from a mistake I've learned in the past. Whenever I plumbed the bathroom, I kept getting leaks on those threaded connection. And then when I started using both the plumber's tape and the joint compound, man, I never got a leak ever again. So again, that's what I'm doing from now on, and it seems to be working really well. So I was just finishing up and finally connecting the hot water line. You see, it's fairly easy. You just assemble everything. The only thing I would say is that eventually your arm is going to get really tired using that tool.
C'est pas possible. Ah! Allez là. Et voilà.
So here it was, but unfortunately I forgot one thing. I really wanted to add this gauge, so let's just try and add it now.
Ah, c'est pas assez ça. Non. Putain! Ah, de toute façon, je m'en doutais que ça va être le bordel. I don't like those shock things. Ah, ça fait mal aux doigts, ça. Allez! Ah, putain! Oh, like correct. Ah! Allez, on va essayer. Ok. Oh yeah, I think I'm good. Oh, faut vraiment y aller, hein. Oh, mais tu te fous de moi? Putain, il est pas rentré du tout. Oh là là. Ah, ben voilà. On l'a eu, je crois. I think we got it.
So as you can see, yeah, shock bite can be an absolute pain to work with, especially in tight spaces, and especially if you have to remove one because you didn't place it correctly. I changed my mind, and I'd put one valve here as my main shutoff, and so I decided to add this one here. So I added another valve right before we're getting to the water heater. So here's a quick refresher look at what the rest of the plumbing looks like in that wall. It pretty much goes down directly into that wall and go feed into the bathroom and the kitchen. So back into my house because yeah, we're not done yet. We still gotta finish the connection between my plumbing and this pipe here. So I've always been heating it up to kind of make the connection. I need to do a 90-degree in this specific case, but I want to give you a word of advice. Be very careful as far as how much heat you're willing to use because that could lead to big surprises.
Non. Look at this shit. Ah, putain. C'est une catastrophe. I'm burning myself. I mean, look. I can't push it in now.
So yeah, you're gonna end up with a big old wet spaghetti if you apply too much heat. So the only solution I could think of was to remove it and let it cool some before inserting it again.
This is not pretty, but it's in.
So I first started with that 90 degrees because obviously I wanted to kind of like hug the wall for the rest of the piping. And so for that reason, I was going to have to use a little bit of extra black pipe to, keep going into that direction. And then after that, I was finally able to transition directly from the black pulley into the 1-inch PEX.
Okay.
So another thing I thought of is that I wanted some sort of like valve that would give me a way to completely empty the cabin line. Let's say that I needed to like winterize everything. I wanted some sort of like valve where I could just attach a garden hose and completely empty everything. So this is kind of what you're seeing me do. I'm attaching some sort of like T connection into a garden hose valve, and that is going to be placed right here, which is going to be the absolute lowest point of the whole plumbing system of my house. So if you remember the beginning of this video, when I first extended the line, I'm pretty much at this point here is where I stopped. So I still have another straight line to do and another 90 degrees before I can connect everything back to together. So that's kind of what you're seeing me do, is really run my lines. I mean, obviously I had to do more holes so that I could do that last run completely going against my foundation wall and then going straight down and connecting to the rest of the cabin line. So there it was, the final connection between the house and the cabin. That's quite a milestone.
Boom. Whew.
One last thing I wanted to do was to kind of stabilize that line against the wall. I mean, I'm sure I will come back at some point and insulate the line completely, but for now I just really wanted to attach it to the CMU wall using special concrete screws so that at least it would be kind of like braced and it wouldn't just like move all over the place. Hey, looking pretty good. Also, I added a few brackets here and there too, again in an effort to attach the pipes and stabilize them. So the final step before actually testing all this, everything is capped in the cabin, all the plumbing is capped, and so I just added, at one spot, I just added a little valve, so at least I would be able to open and close to see if water is coming out.
Okay, it's the moment we turn the water on to the cabin. This is nerve-wracking. Oh my gosh. Dude, this is so scary. So, going through here. The sound. Going through here. And then all the way up to cabin. So far, I think this is fine. Doesn't look like we have anything leaking. So now we're running back to the cabin to check that it's okay over there. Well, let's hope it's good. Right up here. I hate that sound. So here it's gonna stop. What? Dude, all those noises are nerve-wracking. This is... I can't tell you if something is leaking or if that's just
I'm like losing my Ah! I don't like. Wait a minute. This is closed here. Why am I hearing sound in the water heater? What the hell's going on? I mean, this is making an absolute racket. And I don't understand what I'm hearing water in those hot water lines. I don't like hearing this. I don't understand why this is still making sound. I mean, this is such a small system. All right, it's all open now. I don't know if that's gonna work. I just wanna see, I just wanna like see if there is. Yeah, man, we got water! Hey, fresh water in the cabin. How about that? Just want to make sure there's no hair in the lines. I'm impressed. I thought there'd be a lot more hair in the lines. All right. So I couldn't believe it. I did it. There's water in the cabin, but let's not forget that there's still a lot of work to be done. So in the next episode, you'll see more progress of the bathroom. I'm going to install more Go Bald, and I'm also going to try and install sheetrock by myself, including on the ceiling. And yeah, it's not going to go well. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you then.